Heat culture. We hear that all the time coming from Heat fans, coming from the organization itself, but what does that really mean? What does Heat culture mean? What does it mean to have the structure that they have? Well, they attached a name to it. They attached a slogan to it. But at the end of the day, I think it's what every basketball team that isn't overwhelmingly talented, and that's not to take a shot at Miami because Miami has talent. I'm talking about like, Shaq, Kobe talented or Golden State Warriors 2017 talented, like a Bulls 90s talented. Oh, most of the time, that's not how the NBA works. In my view, that's how every franchise should build their organization. Pat Riley, the Godfather, as they call him, the evil genius, as I call him, just finding the right pieces to put into place to put together the puzzle for Erik Spoelstra to put out on the floor. I mean, last night, you have guys like this kid who played the other night in Game 5, Haywood Highsmith, who he only scored 2 points last night, played really well in Game 5, earned minutes to be put in this chance to put in this opportunity to make it happen. Again, Caleb Martin, who, Jimmy's my guy. I think Caleb Martin should have been the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. I really do. I mean, what do he average? Like 20 points a game or something? Around 20 points a game on like 60% shooting? Like, he was great in this series. I'm not mad at Jimmy getting it because I love Jimmy. And you could argue, hey, they gave it to Jimmy just for the fact that he kind of helped get them, kind of carried them to this point, and then it was the role players who stepped up in the Eastern Conference Finals. I understand that. But Pat Riley, finding these undrafted players, finding the guys that fits with the culture, finding guys that fit with playing hard every night, playing great defense, playing patient, good offense, passing up good shots for great shots. You have Erik Spoelstra, who's now the second longest tenured head coach in the NBA to Greg Popovich. This is his 13th year in Miami. Again, having guys ready to play night in, night out. I mean, again, is there any tougher position as a coach to be in than after that Game 6? As far as an individual playoff series, your team's up 3-0, feeling themselves as they should be. You lose Game 4, Game 5. You're like, okay, got Game 6 at home. We'll close that then. And not only do you lose in the fashion that they did. How many coaches have their team ready to play? And not just ready to play, ready to come out and dominate Boston the following night? That's Erik Spoelstra. There was a lot of talk around the Heat talking about how after Game 6 was over, he came in with a very positive, we're going to get them in Game 7 attitude. Jimmy Butler sort of mirrored that same sort of confidence in the post-game presser. Again, having your team ready to play night in, night out. That's Erik Spoelstra. Again, I talked about, and I gave Joe Mazzulla credit, and I'm not a big Joe Mazzulla guy, and I don't want to be brutal on him because the fact is he should not have been in this position because Will Hardy, who was the assistant coach of the Celtics, got hired by the Utah Jazz, okay? And then you had the Ime Udoka situation, so all of a sudden, you got Joe Mazzulla who's just put in this position out of nowhere. But one thing I gave Joe Mazzulla credit for the Celtics coming back to tie the series is keeping the team morale high, keeping the spirits high. Erik Spoelstra did the same thing. I would even argue to a greater extent because this is Game 7. This is your season on the line. You are arguably on the verge of the worst choke job in NBA history. And you didn't blink. It's a credit to Pat Riley for putting the pieces together. Erik Spoelstra, night in, night out, having the guys ready to play. Steve Kerr is a great saying. He might have stole it from Greg Popovich, but I've heard Steve Kerr say it numerous times, so I'll quote him as saying it. In the NBA, 10% of coaching is X's and O's. The other 90% is managing personalities. Does anybody do that as well as Erik Spoelstra? I would argue no. And then lastly, as he's been called in recent days, Himmy Butler, because he got the I'm him sort of thing on social media. Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, as he's become known over the past few years since he joined the Miami Heat. We talk about guys who we go into the playoffs, so we're like, can they be as consistent? I'm talking about great players. Can they be as consistent in the playoffs as they are in the regular season? Because we know it might as well be a different sport in the playoffs. It's officiated differently. It's coached differently. The pace is different. The pressure is different. The energy from the home and road courts are different. Might as well be a different sport. Who elevates? Who stays the same? Who gets worse? Could we make the case that as far as current players, not talking about NBA history, not talking about guys 10 years ago, I'm talking about right now, could I make the case that Jimmy Butler is the only player in the NBA who gets substantially better. I'm talking about of star to superstar players who get substantially better in the playoffs. You could make that case for Nikola Jokic this year, who he's going to be facing in the finals, obviously. But when you talk about what Jimmy Butler's done this postseason, similar to Eric Spoelstra, instilling confidence in this franchise, instilling confidence in his teammates night in, night out, getting guys involved, getting his own shot, playing excellent defense, big hustle plays. He had 3 steals last night. That's who Jimmy Butler has been over the course of his career. And I remember talking before Carving It Up Live was even Carving It Up Live. It was just Carving It Up back at the time during the bubble when the Heat made the finals, won the East. I remember talking about on this show, and they actually beat these same Boston Celtics in 6 games. Jimmy's in Chicago. Oh, he's a problem in the locker room. They move on from him. How good has Chicago been since? You got the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oh, Minnesota. Oh my goodness. Jimmy is too hard on Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. And he left, and what's Minnesota been since? They traded Wiggins, who went to a better culture and has thrived, and Karl Anthony Towns looks like he's probably going to be that way out, on the way out the door as well. And Minnesota is as poorly run a franchise as we have in professional sports. Oh, Philadelphia, and this is the ultimate gaffe. Oh my goodness. We cannot deal with Jimmy. We cannot give him that max extension to make him a part of our future. We are going to hand the franchise to Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris. And how has that worked for Philadelphia? They still have yet to get to an Eastern Conference Finals. Ben Simmons is no longer with the team for good reason. Tobias Harris has been a massive disappointment when you look at what he's getting paid by Philadelphia. And Joel Embiid, let's be honest, not a playoff player. And Jimmy Butler just completed his 3rd Eastern Conference Finals in 4 years and has the Miami Heat, a stable culture, a great culture, in position to win an NBA Finals in his 2nd NBA Finals in 4 years. That's part of why I love the fact that these two teams are on this stage. We talk about talent. We talk about pieces that fit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's culture that matters. That's why Golden State won the championship last year. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.